Hello and welcome to the Warp Shelf. I'm Frank Duran.
I'm Deshaun Vasquez.
And today we're talking about this cinematic event that is Barbenheimer, which turns into our cinematic event of a podcast, which is going to be this double episode where we're going to talk about Barbie and then we'll talk about Oppenheimer and basically throughout be talking about similarities, themes, why these two are together and why it matters to people like us, you know, like and just so you know, you're listening to the Warp Shelf where, you know, we find out what's worth taking home with you, and talk about what, you know, is worth keeping and putting on your shelf
spiritually
yourself.
Or that can be literally like an actual physical copy.
And today we're talking about something that's I think is a theater event. I think this is something that you had to go to the theaters to see it, but of course I will say it right here right now, I will gladly own these two when they come out physical. No spoiler review, I want to own these motherfuckers.
I'm excited to see like what they try to do for like a steelbook of Barbie specifically,
right.
Just like this fucking hot pink monstrosity that they come up with.
I know, I'm so excited, and of course the dark steel box that's going to be Oppenheimer. You're just gonna be like, fuck, look at that scary fucking Blu-ray over there.
Just like an artist rendition of like the final shot of just Cillian Murphy just like staring at the middle distance.
I'm so excited to talk about this because it is, I think, one of the cooler movie go to the theater events we've had in a very long time. You know, like there's good things to go to the movie theaters for, but there's not good things to go see multiple movies for in one weekend. And I think that's super fun. You know, like I think that's awesome. And I think there's a reason why these two kind of generated this kind of hype, and also why they work well together, you know, like why they actually kind of meld in a lot of ways. And I think it comes down to that, you know, like a lot of people were going in being like, wow, Barbie's gonna be this like you know, like bright pink bubbly Barbie like origin story movie or something. It's not what they got. They went into Oppenheimer being like, oh man, it's going to be a Nolan movie doing, you know, like atomic bombs going off as much as possible. And instead, they got a very contemplative, almost abstract historical take, really realistic for Nolan, like almost unbelievably realistic for Nolan. But also
Surprise.
At times,
they're both
like,
character
open.
studies about humanity.
Yeah. Exactly. And I feel like I came out of Barbie having cried multiple times, but then I walked out of Oppenheimer and I was emotionally devastated. You know? I was like, oh fuck, you know, like, because I came out of Barbie being like, wow, that was like really touching. And I've seen Barbie now twice. I went to see it again on Wednesday. I saw opening day, the first two showings of both. And Deshaun actually saw it in 70 millimeter. You saw Oppenheimer?
Yeah. The Coolidge, both the Coolidge and the Somerville Theater were actually doing 70 millimeter screenings for Oppenheimer, which is
the way Nolan.
Yeah, which is definitely what I would want to do because, unfortunately, like the actual, like the real Jordan's Furniture IMAX in Natick is kind of out of my way for someone who doesn't have a car. Like it's pretty inaccessible even with PT. So
yeah. It's not easy. Yeah,
but you know, if you're actually going to screen it on film and in its proper format, which we obviously know that the Coolidge knows their shit.
Yeah, they know their shit. And they treat it well.
Coolidge
Corner Theater.
I saw it not opening day, but like the Monday after the first weekend because
which was a record Monday, and then they set a record Wednesday. Barbie's been smashing records. I can see why. You come in thinking it's going to be, and it kind of plays as a people pleaser, you know, like that's what I've seen a lot of criticism is just the way it plays, what happens on the screen. A lot of people have not been criticizing what obviously Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie were working with here in the double entendre of the whole entire movie. You know, like the entire movie plays on two levels constantly. You know, like, and I think that that's what makes this such a clever movie, and how much it just leans into expressionism, you know, like leans into kind of like how it you know, like how we express ourselves, how you know, film expresses itself, and also you know, the way music is able to express so much through storytelling is kind of impressive here. And then you have Oppenheimer, you know, like, and you're just like, it might be Nolan's fucking best. You know, like, it might be
I did come out of it just like, this is definitely in his fucking at least top 3. This is definitely one of his stronger works.
I did not have fun. I did not have fun. I did not walk out of Dark Knight and want to turn, like I did out of Dark Knight and Inception, and I literally out of Dark Knight I turned around and bought a ticket. And Inception, we did it literally like the next day. I bought another Inception ticket and went back. Like those, I had to see it again. Like I had, you know, and it was like so much fun. I really wanted to. I don't know if I could take Oppenheimer's
not meant to pump you up.
Nope.
Like you saw Barbie and Oppenheimer. I did the opposite. I did Oppenheimer first and then Barbie. So it came out of the first being like, yeah, humanity's doomed. And then jumping into Barbie afterwards as the cool down. It's just like, okay, maybe not.
Yeah, you're like
maybe there's hope.
There's a little bit of joy here. Like, the emotional devastation that Nolan's able to deliver by actually delving into romance for the first time in his fucking movies is actually pretty fucking fantastic. Like, I feel like this man has had such a hard time doing romance in movies other than like Bond girl aesthetic, you know, like it's just like, yes, and it's like Rachel is such a bystander half the time, you know. Like,
Rachel's
it's like Nolan has a lot of criticisms against him on this.
Yeah, Rachel feels in both Begins and Dark Knight like a plot device more than an actual character.
Yeah, and I think that something that crosses over to like to what Barbie is talking about also there, but like but it's one of those things that like Nolan is actually correcting here. Like he's actually having female main characters that aren't just like plot devices or something, and actually they actually get full scenes. And I feel like it's such an improvement on that front, and he's able to deliver such a devastating portrayal of a man, you know, like it's really you know, but also give us a fantastic court drama and a great sci-fi, no, not sci-fi, but like a great science movie at the same time. It's extremely impressive. I do have some small criticisms about both movies. I feel like I have, maybe not small for either, but I think that both of these are really great, and it's one of those things that you have to. I feel like it's really great to see them both. You know, like
yeah. And what's great about this being billed as a double feature is that it just sort of happened organically, basically just through social media. Like it was just fun. It was basically a repeat of what we had with Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing: New Horizons when those two came out, because those came out the same day. So there were a bunch of memes about like goth kids walking into a GameStop and buying Animal Crossing, and like girls in pink dresses just like, Doom Eternal please. And then pretty much the exact same meme happened again with the Barbie and Oppenheimer thing. It's just like, oh, that's hilarious. These movies are two on the exact opposite of the spectrum coming out the same day. And it's also great because like Nolan ain't cool with WB anymore. Like he's moved on. Like he is sick of their shit after being a ride or die with them for so long. And I'm sure Warner Brothers on Barbie's end is just like, oh, Nolan's gonna leave us. Wait till we outgross you, motherfucker. We're gonna pit you against your movie coming out. And the fact that organically it's just like, no, we ain't pitting them against each other. We're watching them both.
We're watching them both. Yeah, exactly. We're watching them both. And to be fair, if you go really back on our podcast, we've been talking about Barbenheimer literally since it was announced. Like, me and Deshaun, if you go back in episodes, we bring it up. We mention it in Filthy Casual episodes, and we talk about it happening. And it's like funny that we've come to this fucking giant episode where we get to talk about it finally, because we've been hyping up this joke forever. And to be fair, to me, it's no joke.
The correct term is Barbenheimer, not Barbie.
Barbenheimer
is the one that's kind of caught on. That's the one you see on T-shirts.
All right,
and it also rolls off the tongue better. I know it gives like a little more of the name to Oppenheimer, but it's just smoother.
Barbenheimer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll let it fly. But I don't know if I'll say it. But I'll try. But I feel like that the reason why it's great to see these movies together is that a lot of people don't see multiple movies. I don't think that happens often. I don't think people sit down and have movie marathons like this. And I feel like
you can seldom get people to go to the theaters anymore, Frank. That's not for like a huge tentpole, let alone a fucking double feature.
Hey, I've been going to the movies. Don't you talk to me. I've been going. You know me.
Hey, this wasn't specifically directed at you, but if you're going to get so
I know your
defensive,
tone,
I feel like
motherfucker.
I think you're admitting something,
I
Frank.
know your tone, motherfucker. All right, fine. But I do think that this actually got people to go to theaters. First off, I love that because theaters need the help in every way.
We're still in that like nuclear winter, like post lockdown of just like theaters are definitely in a better place than they were, but it's still kind of scary and we need people to go.
And it's one of those things that in a world where even I was like, I'll wait to see The Flash when it comes on Max. I was going to go see it in theaters, and then I was kind of like, all this bad reception, I'll wait to see it in Max. But that leads to it being one of the biggest bombs of all time, is that people know they were dropping it on Max early. You know, like they were doing that for a lot of movies, so it's like it kind of creates this like feeling of like I don't need to go because it's like I will see it later. You know, like instead of that need to see it.
And
like
this is something
Barbenheimer has made.
And this is something that I've been saying for years. Like we've literally like witnessed the like slow, excruciating death of the mid-budget film because unless it's something big that you feel like you need to see on a big screen, no one fucking goes out to see it, so it just gets dumped somewhere else, which is very interesting to think about while the fucking the SAG-AFTRA and the WGA fucking strike is going on right now.
Which guys, if you don't know, we're on the side of the strikers. We help and we support and we do anything to help them. So of course we talk about all these things about the film. We don't talk. Fuck Warner Brothers and who put out Oppenheimer's that Universal. It's I feel like it's like fuck them, but the people who made it is what we're talking about here. That's what's important. The people who actually made the fucking film.
But it's important to contextualize because you think about that in the back of your head with the way like actors and writers get screwed over when things go to streaming, and it kind of puts the like I'll just wait for it to hit streaming in a worse place.
A worse place. It makes you think about it. It makes you go, oh fuck. You know, like you're like, oh, it's one of those things that a lot of my friends will be like, well, why didn't you pirate that movie? And it's one of those things that we work in. You know, we went to film school. We work in this. Like we do this. It's one of those things that you feel bad sometimes not paying for it because you know what people put in to make this stuff happen, and it like sucks to like. For these guys not to get the money they should, and it sucks even further when a studio's hoarding that money and not giving it to the people actually making shit. So so even worse, you know. Like so, hopefully these guys can get on a fucking, you know, a deal soon and a good one.
So it's good when a double feature like this rolls around as sort of like the internet's favorite new gimmick. Because that does bring people in, like for better or worse. Like it's fun.
To tie into the SAG, both of these movies absolutely stacked. I would say that's the real fucking tie through both these movies. I literally, the entirety of both these movies, I was like, that guy's in this movie? What the shit? Like, both Barbie and Oppenheimer, I was sitting there going, oh my god, what are they doing here? You know, like you're like holy shit, like
just like they both. It's like one or the other. Like Oppenheimer got all the actors in Hollywood, and Barbie got the ones that they forgot. It's like it's like they both got collectively. They got all the actors.
And I mean, I think it's fantastic, and it's also one of those things where you're like, hey, none of these guys were being compensated fairly for this. So you think about that,
which is especially annoying for something like Barbie, because Barbie could have very much have been a very fun but disposable film, based on what's essentially a doll, just like an IP type movie. In the same way that, like, before you knew who the creative team was behind the Lego movie, you're like, oh, a Lego movie?
Yeah, you're like, Lego?
I don't know about that. But then you get Lord and Miller on it. With Barbie, you get Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach as a co-writer. So you're like...
There's a big difference when that shit happens and you have, like, a Monster Hunter movie, and all of a sudden you hear Paul W.S. Anderson is attached, and you're like, don't you fucking do it again, you son of a bitch. You son of a bitch, you stay away. Like,
oh, God, he's 3 for 3 now.
Yeah, that motherfucker can leave. Like, I say this lightly, leave Hollywood. Like stop making video game adaptations. You
make all the movies you want, but you keep away from my fucking video games.
Right, that's
You've
all.
Had 3 strikes.
Just make other movies, man. Like, you obviously have a great filmmaking aesthetic and feel. Just stay away from my fucking video games, my man. But besides the point. Let's go to Barbie, guys. I'm obviously kenned up. I got my roses on. I had a chain for going to the premiere. I wore chains, a bunch of rings, wore my jorts. I fucking got kenned up for for Barbie, and then of course I'm by myself, and I was like in a small New Hampshire theater, and I definitely got the full Barbie experience where I was like, I feel self-conscious. and mostly because I think these bigoted white New Hampshire people might hurt a gay man, and I'm like, and I'm not gay. You're like, I definitely look it right now. I'm like, and I was like, I'm getting the full experience here, and
not fun, is it?
Not fun.
It will definitely make you more empathetic.
Cool. Yes, I was like, oh my.
Oh, that sucks.
Oh, that fucking sucks. Like, and they even say the line in Barbie. She's like, I'm conscious, but of myself. Yeah, and you're like, it's such a funny line, but it also
and also the like, I definitely feel a threat of violence. You're like, yeah.
I love that. I'm feeling no threat of violence. I'm feeling no threat of violence.
I can't even remember what I wore, but I definitely don't own anything pink at all. Like, most of my shirts are black, for better or worse.
Oh,
so
man,
definitely dress for one and not the other.
Yes. Did you at least have an Oppenheimer hat, or did you just wear the cabbie? Or
I don't think I was wearing the cabbie. I think I just went and just whatever I decided to throw on. I almost bought I Survived Barbenheimer 2023 shirt, where it's like in the Barbie logo and it shows like a little pink mushroom cloud in the background. But I know it wasn't going to show up in time.
No, man, that's too funny though. I really enjoyed my theater experience. I didn't want to be this guy, but there was like 2 aunties who came in later, and they came in like 10 minutes late, and then they came and they took forever to find their seat, which was next to me, and then they started to have a conversation about how hard it was to get to their seat after struggling for so long, and I became that guy where I was just like, shh. And I had to shush these aunties as the bearded guy sitting in the corner by himself. And I'm just like,
I am very much like much more inclined.
Cinema.
I am much more inclined to shush people when I go to the movies on my own, which is most of the time. When I'm with people, I don't want to be perceived.
Yes.
When I'm on my own, I'll tell anyone to shut up.
I was like, I don't want to be this guy. I even had the thought, I'm like, I don't want to be this guy, but they won't shut the fuck up. And I'm like, this is Barbie. Like, shut up.
Also, for the record, I know like you were considering going to the Coolidge to see them again with me. You could have. There
was no seats when I looked on the website.
There were still people just straight up going to the box office physically and getting tickets like there.
That's crazy.
Like, there were empty seats next to me. Like, it was still full up in the first movie house, like the big one.
Oh yeah.
And Barbie was the one upstairs. But you totally could have come in. They probably just sold out online. Yeah.
That's wild, because it literally wouldn't even load up the seating chart. It just said sold out. And I did it for like all the showings and like to make sure it wasn't just a glitch. And
yeah,
I was like, okay,
I was thinking that because I was in line, just like, because they do like they put out the sign. You're like, if you're lined up for these movies, stay out here for now so we can bring you all in at the same time.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
Even when I was waiting for that, I saw like a couple like old folks just walking up to the box office. Ooh, ticket for Oppenheimer. So you would have been fine.
Okay. I did see it again. So it was packed when I saw Barbie and Oppenheimer opening day, first showings, which was crazy because it was, a Thursday afternoon. And then I saw it again this past Wednesday at like an 8 o'clock show. Absolutely fucking packed. Absolutely packed. Barbie is fucking selling seats, baby. Like, because the other thing they did with this, and I think this is the real genius, is it's a friend event. Like, you get a group of friends together to go see both of these movies, or at least Barbie, like, and I think that's the fun that's going on, like, and I think that's what's really selling these tickets and what's going to make Barbie one of the fucking highest selling movies of the fucking year. Like, you're like, holy shit. Like, you're like, holy shit. But okay, Barbie though. Sorry, I keep talking about them together. Barbie, great. So I think on surface, a lot of people are gonna. There's a lot of. It's a lot of things that might piss you off, like when you're first looking at it. I think, like I think a lot of people. Like the right wing, it gets really fucking pissed about this. Of course,
yeah, you're fucking.
Literally watched this movie and I had a moment where and I've never thought this before in my life, but I was like, Ben Shapiro's gonna fucking hate that, and I was right because I walked.
I consider that great advertisement.
Right?
If Ben Shapiro's gonna hate it, then see it as soon as fucking possible.
And then literally that night I saw his review, Ben Shapiro destroys Barbie. And you're like, oh, okay, dude. So first off, he's no fucking film critic. The man is terrible at film criticism and literally couldn't fucking decipher a fucking plot if it he just can't. He just can't do it. And but also there's a lot of left-wing people doing just terrible analysis of it because they're seeing this very surface-level thing that's going on there, and they're not seeing what's the real message here. Because I think when you actually look at this movie, because it seems like, they bring back patriarchy and it completely destroys the Barbies, and you're like holy what the fuck, and and then the Kens take over and they get pushed down, and it's kind of like one of those things that you're like so what are they trying to say here, and then what are they trying to say with the ending, which I felt was kind of sloppy when I first watched it, and now that I've seen it twice, I don't think the ending's as sloppy as I thought it was. Mm-hmm. It still has some very loose ends, and I think that's the real mess of this movie is the ending. But I think before that, even the ending has purpose, has a lot of purpose there, because really what this movie's about is that, sure, look at this first wave feminism, that didn't work. Oh, look, this is just patriarchy being replicated with none of, the societal standpoints, and that didn't work. And then what is the real message here is finding out who you are, who the person next to you is, actual human connection and learning who you are as a person, and then finding out what makes you a real man, woman, person,
Individual.
like individual, like, and that's what that ending is all about. I think is kind of great, is that like this whole movie about like dolls being thrust into this world of they lived in this kind of like the idealized just kind of fun land, and then it gets completely destroyed in an instant, and it's kind of one of those things where you're like, those things don't stand up without realizing who you are, like none of these things stand up without realizing who you are as a person and what you were made for and what you are supposed to do, like, and you're sitting there being like, the fuck, Barbie, at the end of the movie, because like, because you're sitting there like, think like that's the type of shit that is happening at the end of the fucking movie, and you're just like, what the fuck? Because like it starts off so like doing stereotypical, like, I would say this movie would be an animated movie if Margot Robbie didn't take over. Like, like in a way, this movie plays a lot like an animated movie, and I think that that's what's so also fun about it, like, is that the people are acting out this very like animated movie type of plot, and but also it's constantly contemplating what what it means to be sorry, it's kind of complicated, but it's like it's just constantly contemplating what it means to be a property in a capitalist society, what it means to be commodifying every little bit of you, what it means to basically not exist, and then what is that, like, and also what it means to what your role as a man and a woman in a relationship is, but also does that even matter, sort of thing. And it's like one of those things that also, that's the reason why they're so pissed about this movie, like, is it also kind of destroys all that shit.
Whether or not it's healthy to idolize what is essentially product, like a commodity, like that's always going to be like a pressing debate. Just like, should our heroes be all these fictional characters?
And that's what I think is funny about this movie. I've seen a lot of criticism. I don't know if you've seen this article. They're like, I hated Barbie, and it was in like the Atlantic or something, and it was like, and it was just like they hated how commercial it was, and I just was like, you didn't fucking see the movie. Like you didn't fucking watch this movie.
You must have like walked out at the first third.
Like, that's the thing, is a lot of people, I think, are taking, I said it earlier, just taking this movie on base, like taking the way it happens on base, and that is not it. Like, I think what's on base is what's fun and okay for, the Mattel, like it's okay for them to say that thing. But what Greta is fucking getting at on the second layer constantly is what makes this movie worth watching, like, and makes this like kind of an incredible movie. You're like, holy shit.
I am very glad it didn't fall into traps that I was worried about with those initial trailers. Like, the moment that they introduced the plot point of just like, oh, Barbie and Ken are gonna go to the real world, huh? Why do we fucking do this every single time we make one of these types of movies? And thankfully, that actually doesn't really cover too much. No,
it's very like, it moves very fast through the real world, and it's very much like just culture shock for Barbie and Ken,
Yeah, and it also like keeps kind of the fish out of water stuff to a minimum. Like, we don't really need, like, we've all seen those. And yes. I like that the entire movie sort of has that attitude. Like, the way it's just like, whatever, you can travel from Barbie Land to the real world. It doesn't matter. We don't need to explain it. So we can all agree, all of us have seen a fucking movie in here? Okay. Let's go.
And that's my thing, is like, I feel like it's almost like a lot of like fourth wall breaking, and a lot of the attitude that's going on, like, it's not really like saying anything breaking the fourth wall, but like the attitude of like, everything that Weird Barbie does, basically, is like a big, like, let's move this thing along, you know, sort of stuff. Like her having a full map of Barbie Land, her knowing the exact way to go to the reality, you know, like all these like funny things that you're like, oh, all right, you know.
Or like the actual literal fourth wall breaking moment with Helen Mirren as the narrator. When like Barbie's like, I'm so ugly now. And her being like, note to Warner Brothers, like, Margot Robbie's the worst person to cast if you want to try and make this kind of point.
Which is super funny because Margot Robbie produced this movie, you know, like, and she talks about how she told Greta she didn't have to be Barbie. She didn't have to be, there could be another Barbie. It's like, and Greta was like, no, I'm writing this for you. So,
I mean, that was sort of like the immediate thing. Even before we knew anything about this movie, it's just like, oh, Warner Bros. Is gonna try to do a Barbie movie with Margot Robbie. Your first instinct is like, yeah, that seems about right.
Yeah, it's right. You're like, yeah, very, very right. Like, I love also the attitude in this movie of stereotypical Barbie. Like, they're like, no, this is the Barbie you think about when you think about Barbie. Like, we don't have to go any deeper than that. Like, we don't have to, like, be like, oh, this is a very specific Barbie from the 60s or 70s. They're like, no. Like, this is stereotypical Barbie, you know? Like,
I'm also glad. Like, okay. And I'm sure it's because it's a matter of, like, Barbie as a brand has never been in trouble. Yeah. But it is really funny that Mattel, like, let them get away with so much, especially referencing, like, some of their weirder products that they made over the years. It's like, yeah, that's real. Like, I love that the ending credits is just like, here's all these real Barbies that the characters you met are actually based on. Yes, even the really weird and fucked up ones were a thing.
Yes, it's so funny. It's like one of those things that I think that this is a good crowd-pleasing movie, too, because I think it works as a younger kids movie while staying with very adult themes the entire time, you know, like does not break from them, is trying to tackle these things the entire time. But I would still say I saw a lot of young girls going to see this, and and they all seem to enjoy it, you know, like every single person walking out of the theater seemed to have a good time. And I heard many people being like, that was great, you know, like that was so funny, you know, like it's
I definitely the
this
audience
is a crowd pleaser.
The audience I was with was definitely having a grand old time with it when I went to go see it at the Coolidge. Like, laughing at, like, every joke, like, being way too excited, in a good way, obviously. Yeah. That's just me being just so, like, yeah, yes, pleasant.
Yes.
You should fucking see me at concerts. Like, I'm not the one who's bumping. I'm just like, yes, pleasant to my ears. Because I'm just not that energetic a person. It's really funny. Just like, I am enjoying myself, I swear.
I am enjoying. Do not worry. I'm having a good time.
Yes.
Everyone was having a good time in my first showing and the second showing of Barbie.
But I think what you're trying to get at is just like that idea of like, even for a movie like this, there can still be that little something. Yes. In the same way that, like, yeah, the Lego movie would still be great if it was just about the laughs and it was just about the gags. But it's pushed that little bit further by that ending with that confrontation with the boy and his father. Like, yep. There's that little bit there. Like, the big speech from America Ferrera's character in this, it pushes it that little bit further. It's just like, yeah,
everyone
which I know
brings up the America Ferrera speech. Everybody I've seen that's watched Barbie has brought up that. I didn't like fully blend with me, you know, like I thought that was very good, but I didn't like but everyone seems to love it. So I'm not hating on it. I just like it was a scene that I went by me, and then everyone else loved it, and I was kind of like,
okay.
Oh, good. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I liked it too. I just didn't think it. Like, everybody I've talked to has brought up that speech. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, damn.
It's one of those things where I've seen the criticism towards it, even like actual like healthy criticism, not just people just being dicks, of just like, isn't it kind of a little on the nose? Where I'm just, from my perspective, it's like, well, sometimes things need to be hammered hard because you don't seem to fucking get it when we try to do it subtly.
So I think that there's two real criticisms to that speech. I think that is and Mary said this about that speech, is it's kind of a people pleaser speech. Like, if you're a people pleaser person, that's a speech for you, you know, like, because like you don't like if you don't care about pleasing people, like I'm sure you don't, Deshaun,
Nope.
like you know, like that you're kind of like, I don't understand, but I get it, you know, like
Yeah,
you're
which
like
is where I'm at
you're
with
like.
it.
Yeah, and I feel Mary was the same way. She was like, she was like, that's more for people pleasers, you know, like it's not. Some people just don't give a shit, you know, like, you know, like, and you're kind of like, yeah, totally, you know, like that makes a lot of sense, like,
which is
there's a lot of
definitely
people
true,
that
but that
struggle
doesn't
with it,
but that doesn't
like,
mean like, because you have people who are people pleasers, but that doesn't mean there's also that not like
yeah,
societal pressure whispering in your ear constantly through like marketing and popular
Right.
culture and like
just everything,
yeah, and just like
telling you to be something else, you know,
yeah,
like,
when you're
and-
like just raised around it in what is essentially like a heteronormative like society, especially given the US.
Yeah, and I think I feel like they're really talking about that, especially with Ken having the "I'm Ken enough" at the end, and it's kind of like, I think that it's like kind of a really healthy ending for Ken. You know, like I think it's actually a really healthy outcome.
I'm not going
like,
to say that Ryan Gosling stole the show in this movie because
But he may have.
everyone's really good in this.
Everyone's
but
really good.
oh my fucking god, Ryan Gosling was the best part about this movie to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Everyone knows that every man has a man crush on Ryan Gosling. They just knew that doing this movie. I think, you know, like,
and I think
that's what. I think that's another reason why this is a people
And
pleaser.
I also think
Ryan
that
Gosling is so fucking good in this.
And I also think general audiences forget that Ryan Gosling is funny.
Yes,
Because
and
I think we think
musically talented and like and an extremely just fun actor. You know,
I think
like,
we associate him
with
too
stage
much with
presence.
stuff like Drive or The Notebook or like La La Land, where he tends to play either like stoic characters or like stick in the mud characters.
Yes.
And we don't think about stuff like some of the things he did in his early career,
like
or
Lars
like
and the Real Girl,
or like The
And-
Nice Guys. But The Nice Guys didn't really do that well at the box office.
Yep.
But that he's really funny in that. That has like that like Shane Black cleverness.
Yes,
Like
and
he
I
can do
think that
both. He has more range than I Drive.
He's absolutely fantastic in this movie. I think first off, I think Margot Robbie is made me cry in this movie, and she's fantastic in this. But I think that Ryan Gosling is amazing. The entire reason to see this movie, fuck all my pretentious film criticism. Fuck all that. This is the real review. His angry dancing is why you need to have your butt in the seat, you know? Like him angry dancing towards Barbie during the Dua Lipa bespoke song scene is so fucking funny. And then the whole Ken fight at the end is incredible. Them doing basically 300 on the beach is so fucking funny to me, you know, like, because they literally do the shot, like they do the boats land, everyone comes out, it's sort of like Normandy-ish, but then they do the shot from 300 where you see Xerxes from very fucking far away, and it's it's Simon Lucan, and you're just like, holy shit.
It's
Which also, by the way, another show stealer. He absolutely steals this show,
and he's not in it much.
No, he's not. But I think it's he also has one of the best Ryan Gosling lines from him when they're like, don't tell Ken about this, and they're like, Ken's not cool, and he is to me. I fucking lost it about that both times. I fucking love that line. I'm just like, oh my god. And
it's funny too because it's not the only like, I won't say pot shot, but like haha towards Zack Snyder, because you got like the 300 thing, which is a little more subtle. Like you would know,
subtle.
but then the actual just like slight, the joke for the Snyder cut was really fucking funny.
I suddenly cared so much about the Snyder cut.
Snyder's Justice League.
But you're like, oh my god, this is from Warner Brothers. You're like, what the fuck is going on here?
It's so funny that like, because for better or worse, because you and I like that movie, and we also like Zack Snyder as a filmmaker, but because the fucking Snyder Cut fanboys are so rabid and annoying, we have to clarify that we're not fucking nuts.
So I will say is that's the toxic masculinity that they're trying to address there.
Yeah.
You know, like this toxicity instead of just fandom, where you switch from being like, wow, I'm so excited to see this movie, I'm so glad it's happening, to turning into like hurting people and doxing people and just being general assholes online, is the shit they're addressing. Not the actual, like, guys, if you're upset that they brought up the Zack Snyder cut during the movie, they're not saying the Zack Snyder cut's bad. They're saying you caring so much about getting that Snyder cut is the problem, like being toxic about it is the issue, like you're just like, and that's
of course,
kind of
like
a lot of what's going on here.
And the cynical side of me, the cynical side of me definitely laughed at like, yeah, we brought Ken to the real world and he spent one day in the real world and like brought all this stupid shit back with him. Just like, yeah, that seems about right.
Right, seems about right. Seems right. But I do like that there's no real villain here. That like the like Ken comes back and he's just kind of retaliating against Barbie. Like it is just being like, please, can I have your attention, Barbie? Still,
yeah, there's no like straight villain, but he does like fulfill that antagonistic role in the second half, which is great, and I'm glad like none of the trailers gave that away.
Yeah, exactly.
Like all of the trailers really just like stuck to like going to the real world, a little bit of like meeting the Mattel board, and that's pretty much it. They didn't give anything away as far as like the other stuff, which is great because I was hoping that there would be a turn.
And yeah, I do enjoy the turn. Like I like that it's just this stupidity, but I also love the lines during it, like them being like, when I found out that like horses are just extension of manhood, they're like, oh, like, and they're just.
It's like, honestly, I lost all interest in patriarchy when I found out that it wasn't solely about horses.
I love
which
that
is such,
shit.
which is also perfect because like that's that like all the Kens act like young boys.
Yes,
like that sort of single-minded. Sometimes I don't know any better, but just like I'm really into this one thing. Damn it!
I will say him taking over the Mojo Dojo Casa house works on many levels because it's the way your younger brother steps in and plays with your Barbies, like sort of thing, where it's like they step in, they take over, and they become the main characters when the bigger sister's been the main character the entire time with her Barbie, like, and that becomes the contention there. So it's like it's a very classic play thing going on there. It's also Ken trying to show Barbie he is cool, like you could lose me, like it's so insecure. It's so like, you could lose me, Barbie. I'm way cooler, like it's don't be so secure about having me, Barbie, sort of thing going on. And even the songs they sing at I want to push you around, I will, is such a needy song, like it's such like a perfect song because it implies violence, but all it is really is super needy,
I mean, it also just boils down to men needing therapy.
Yeah, you're like,
it just kind of comes back to that, just like no, your potential partner isn't there to fix your life.
Yeah,
like,
and not there for you either, like all the time, like it's just like they don't have to fix everything about you, not everything does, like you're like, patriarchy won't fix it, neither will Barbie, like you have to find out who you are, Ken. And I was like, wow, that's a healthy fucking ending for Ken there, like I know a bunch of, like I know Ben Shapiro was just like, they just leave this man and he was able to take over all of Barbie land. You're like, shut up. you're like, shut your goddamn mouth. Like, you misunderstood this completely. Like, you're just like, shit up. But I will say, I was saying my criticism of the ending of this movie, because I think the beginning's genius. I think it brings you in. It feels great the entire time. It definitely slows down when they go to when they go to the real world, but in very short chunks. They move very fast. They keep it fun. But I will say it's kind of like the real problem is the ending, and I think that's where the real true criticism for me comes in, is that I think it's a little messy. I think there's a lot being said about the ending, but I think that Ken basically the Kens being not in a better place other than Ken. Like the Barbies are back in power and haven't actually changed anything. So nothing's really changed. So it's like Mattel's happy, and that's what they're saying there. Like, that's what they're saying is like Mattel's happy. But it's kind of one of those things where you're like, what? And America Ferrera just gets to come up with a Barbie that's insanely popular, but that's the end of her character story, other than she gets to be with her daughter a bunch. It's kind of...
I felt like... I felt like the subplot
far enough sometimes
between like her and her daughter felt kind of underdeveloped.
Yes, I think that's what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
That, like, there's kind of these loose ends, not real loose ends, because everything's sort of addressed at the ending. But even the script says it. They're like, well, what about Barbie's ending? Everyone's has their ending. And you're like, yeah, but none of those endings were very satisfactory. I
get the idea of like them sort of like going back to the status quo, because like it or not, people aside from like the main Ken that we follow, were pretty much happy.
Yeah,
where they were. And there is that like glimmer of just like, now you guys can like find your own thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily just like have one or the other, but like you guys can find what you need on your own after the fact.
And I get the joke of like she came up with a Barbie and it's insanely popular, but they don't even solve the Mattel issue of the all-male board, which felt like it was an issue, and they just don't deal with it at the end. Like it just feels like it's just kind of like,
yeah. I figured they were gonna like promote America Ferrera's character or something, and like bring her on the board.
Right? I'm like something, and that's what I'm saying here is that I think this ending has a lot of meaning, especially with Barbie becoming real and going to the gynecologist. I feel like there's a lot of meaning.
Great
it's hilarious
to that joke,
but it's a hilarious joke, but it's also
I'm also
dripping with meaning. I feel like, and
I'm also glad that they telegraph that she's going to a job interview and it's just a gynecology appointment, because I feel like any job you would potentially give Barbie could potentially be problematic from just a societal standpoint. So just to not even have that conversation at all, it's just like, oh, just have her be at an appointment. Because depending on like what job you give her would probably rub people the wrong way.
Yeah, my thing was maybe that she was going to go in to work as creating Barbies. That's what I thought what was gonna happen there, but that was not. Well, they went for the joke, and like I do like the joke, and I love the meaning of it.
But that's sort of the issue. Like if you have her work at Mattel as like maybe like a conceptualist, then she's still kind of working under like the big board of stupid men up top. So that's not satisfying enough.
Yeah.
If you have her like join the board or take over, it's just like, well, she doesn't need to join the board to take over to prove herself, so that doesn't work. So that's why I'm glad they just avoided saying what her profession is in general. Just like, whatever, she's just a person, she went to an appointment, because I feel like there's kind of a no-win scenario there. Like the moment you're like, she's going into the real world, you're still going into the real world with a lot of fucking problems in the way we treat women. So either way, you're kind of fucked.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what they're trying to say there, like at the very end, like the cognitive dissonance, being a real woman is so big and wide that even the Barbies who have never been women are instantly snapped out of their trance when they hear how big of the cognitive dissonance is. Because at first when I saw that, I was like, so you just state things to these fake Barbies and they snap out of it? It seems too easy. Like even Alan didn't even get to like have a great moment other than kicking everyone's ass. I thought Alan might be smart or something like that, but they were like, nah. Like they were.
Yeah, it's interesting because Alan seems to be like the only one, even before Barbie and Ken, to have some sort of semblance of self-awareness.
Yeah, right. Like he understands what's going on, sort of thing, and you're just
like fucking people who buy Barbies barely care about the Kens. What do you fucking think that puts me?
I I think the whole, I think that's, I think my main two criticisms is this, basically this kind of messy ending, but I feel like the ending has a lot of meaning and they're doing a lot with it. But also some of the pacing once were in the real world and moving off, and the underdeveloped
which is like
with the mom.
It's all because it's a tough subject.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like you can't. It would be really hard to end this movie and be like, I did it. I solved sexism.
Yes,
I fixed it.
Yes, so my criticism to this is that, like, because that's the thing is, like, when I'm saying that, it's kind of like expecting good salads from McDonald's. You're like, this is motherfucking McDonald's, my brother.
Yeah.
Like this is Barbie. This isn't supposed to fix fucking any shit. Like, this is just supposed to, in my way, I think that you were like, you were saying America Ferrera is putting it out there very bluntly. Some people have never heard this type of shit before in their lives. That's why it's important to say this in this movie. Like, some people have never fucking thought about this. Like, it may seem simple, but there's lots of men who have never had sisters and they've only had moms, and they just don't fucking give a shit about their moms.
Or
so
even when
they never thought about this.
Yeah,
they're terrible people, but
or
they never
even they've consumed media where, like, the message is there right in front of their fucking face, played not that subtly, and it'll still go over their heads. Like the people who say Star Trek was never political.
Oh my god, right? You're like,
just like Star Trek. Why is Star Trek so political now? Now? The whole time, motherfucker. Like whole motherfucking time. So it's one of those things where, like, sometimes you can't. Sometimes even being, like, subtle or making it metaphorical or, like, not being so on the nose. Sometimes that doesn't help. Sometimes you need a fucking hammer to the nose.
Yes.
Just like, no, just so we're fucking clear. Since just so you want to deny it otherwise.
And I think that that's what's really great here. But also, if you want a movie that's really tackling the actual violence of men and the actual, like, consequences of men's actions against women, there's a movie called Women's Talking. It was up for Best Picture nomination last year. It's fucking incredible. I recommend it. That's the one you're looking for. If you want something that deep, that strong, that great in voice, Women's Talking was up for Best Picture and it didn't win. It's fucking incredible. Absolutely recommend that movie. And might be a good companion piece to this movie afterward, where you're like, that was kind of light. You're like, well, want feminism dark? You're like, oh shit, women talking. You're like, oh no, like that is far better at tackling those topics actually head on with real dialogue that feels truthful.
But it is also nice that a movie like Barbie, which could have just been a nothing film, at least will have the conversation.
And it did, and to put in a little bit of our, like, pre-production knowledge into this, it did. If you look back at the history of the Barbie movie, there was a whole Barbie movie with Amy Schumer before. They were literally up to shooting it before studio stepped in and shut it down. Basically, what I've read and what I've been told about the movie is that it's just kind of a straight up, like, Barbie goes to the real world, and has to fight what is sexism in the real world, with Amy Schumer trying to be that. And I can see that not being funny because Amy Schumer's not funny. That's the real difference here. Like,
I could see never seeing that.
Yes,
if that was the movie we got.
Exactly. I think that Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie can deliver a lot more, and I could say a lot more than just a weird rom-com Barbie movie. Like, I'm sure it would have done well, but this is what actually fills seats.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Like, you're like, come on. Actually, and it's like it's always funny when a movie that's actually, like, well thought out and has deeper meanings going on, and of course it does well with audiences. Like, the studios are constantly being like, oh man, it might go above the audience's head. They're like, audiences love deeper shit, so shut up. Nobody wants this, like, shallow Barbie movie from Amy Schumer. People want a deeper Barbie movie from Greta Gerwig. And it worked. In a big way. I do think one of the strengths of this movie was one of the weaknesses that I said about Across the Spider-Verse. I said Across the Spider-Verse had a soundtrack where they mention Spider-Man a lot, and it feels kind of musically, like a musical in that way, where they're like mentioning Peter Parker, they're mentioning Miles, they're mentioning Spider-Man, but they don't use it in the movie as such. And I think that that's, and that was my criticism for that movie, one of the only criticisms I had for that movie. But this movie actually leans into its musical love of musicals and it's and kind of the fun of musicals here. It starts off with Lizzo doing a whole scene for the entrance, Hi Barbie, and the whole, and then you have a complete choreograph to the Dua Lipa song for that, and then you still have Ryan Gosling. I'm Just Ken later on. And also, Tame Impala's song is literally called Crossing Over into Reality, that they play over the first time you crossed into reality. And you're just like, okay, so you leaned into the actual music, and you're able to express feelings, moods, stuff that can't get across in dialogue through the music. And I think that that's what makes this that an actual useful use of always saying Barbie, always saying what's, like they actually used it in the movie. It's like, it seemed like it was crafted around it instead of just like, oh yeah, mention Peter Parker in that song, guys. Yeah, just so we could throw it in this movie, like that's the difference, like actually purposeful. I think they were very purposeful with the music in this movie, and I think that, and it shows, and I think that that's what makes that elevates this movie that much more, yeah.
And I'm glad that Greta Gerwig's like, I don't fucking know. I'm not thinking about a sequel right now.
Good.
She
said, I used up all my ideas. When I do any movie, I use up all my ideas. And I'm like, Greta, I fucking love that.
Yeah, that's a mentality that we used to have, because back in the day, you were not immediately guaranteed a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I've spoken about how, like, I really like the Aquaman movie doing that. It's just like, is it kind of overstuffed? Yeah. But it is kind of nice. It's just like, we may never
big swing.
It's like, we may never get a chance to do an Aquaman movie again, so we just fucking put everything in it. It's the idea of, like, why we do the weird thing in Batman 89 that we make the Joker the person who killed Bruce's parents, because we want to make this a complete story in case we don't get another chance to do another one.
And you can't build on it. It's like, you won't have a second chance. This is it. Do the whole story, and I like that. I like that attitude. So any final thoughts on Barbie before we move on to Oppenheimer?
Where was the Aqua song?
They had the Nicki Minaj version, but of course it's not the same. It's one of those things there. I do like this album a lot, the Barbie album. I have a lot of the music on my liked playlist right now, and I like it a lot. The Charlie XX song is great. I'm not so much into the sadder songs, other than I'm Just Ken, of course, and mostly for the Gene Kelly reference when they go and they dance battle against each other. It feels very Gene Kelly and Frank Sinatra in, oh man, I forget in the movie, but it feels like them, like where it's Simon Liu and Ryan Gosling dance battling in that. I feel like that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, first off, and also it's just like visually really fun. But I also really loved Silver Platter by Khalid, I already said Journey to the Real World by Tame Impala, and Speed Drive by Charlie XX. And of course, my new favorites, I've been listening to too much of their K-pop, 50/50, doing Barbie Dreams. That shit's fire. I know, I love 50/50. I'm sorry. I stand here in this house for them. Great soundtrack.
Frank, you don't need to be ashamed for liking K-pop, because that's another example of just like, no, I'm not supposed to like it because a lot of young girls do.
Yeah, and you're like, but it's 50-50 jamming. Like I'm literally that Patrick Bateman meme where they're like him walking through the hall and like his headphones and it's 50-50 being like, and I'm just like, yeah, that's me. Like, you know, like people see me speeding down the highway, they're like, I bet he's listening to metal, and I'm just being like, ding, 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 and you're like, okay, like, but I think that a great soundtrack makes a movie live even longer, you know, like I feel like it's like in some ways, for some reason, this movie, my like weird final thought on this movie, and Deshaun, this might be crazy, just is this weird? Is this movie very Shrek-like in a lot of ways? I feel like in some ways this movie follows in the footsteps of Shrek in a lot of ways, where it's like breaking down the fairy tales, and it's like and it's like feels very adult at the same time as being made for kids.
Yeah, that's not a bad comparison.
It's weird to say because you're like, I think
it's only weird to say because the internet has a really fucking weird thing about Shrek.
Yes.
That's it. And their weird obsession with it makes me want to never watch it again. But
it's a great movie. It's a great fucking
good
movie. Like,
yeah.
It's like one of those movies I remember seeing in theaters as a young kid, and like I still I saw it recently this year, and we still loved it. You know, like I'm like, wow, this movie's still great.
It was a bad influence on animated films going forward because we learned the wrong lessons from it. But yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a good movie. I feel like that happens with every great animated movie. All the other animated movies are like, so we do that.
Oh, you want to talk about learning the wrong lesson? I'm fucking sure that studios are going to try and like replicate this novelty with this double feature and try to do it themselves, but not let it happen organically like this did.
They're doing what was it?
The fucking Saw X with Paw Patrol.
Yeah, so it's Saw Patrol. And like
just like no, guys, no.
You're like, no, nobody is also going to Paw Patrol, but it's one of those things that like it's such a joke too because these two movies work well together, even if they weren't coming out on the same day. But like literally, the parents who are going to see Paw Patrol can't bring their kids to see Saw. You know, like this isn't like this doesn't work. You know, like it's not the kids movie being included does not work with this. You know, like you're like, I'm sorry, it's a cool name, Saw Patrol, very cool, but it's not gonna work. And I am worried about them trying to replicate this, but at the same time, if people go to some movies more, I'm fucking for it. You know, like that's all I'll say.
But it is one of those things where, like, when something happens organically versus where you try to force it on people.
Yes. To me, this feels them trying to replicate it feels very much like them putting out Morbius for the third time. You know, like where you're like, you fucking did not understand. Motherfucker, you know, like you did not get it. Your algorithm is telling you you're doing well, and you're not. You know, like god damn. Like, you know, like I still haven't seen Morbius. I'm not gonna do that to myself. That's all I'm saying.
I didn't even watch Venom. What makes you think I'm gonna watch Morbius or fucking Craven?
Exactly. You just like keep me away. So, Barbie though, I think a lot of people who aren't very good at reading what's between the lines or what's going on underneath might not enjoy Barbie as much, but might. I think that this is a very good movie. I loved it. I would recommend it to anybody. It was a lot of fun.
It is more or less what I hoped for when they said who the creative team was. Because, like, a Barbie movie, it's not really for me. A Barbie movie done by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. Like,
yes.
Okay. What have you got? What's up your sleeve?
So, I will say the number one scene that made me cry about Barbie, I almost forgot to bring it up, is her turning to the old lady and saying, "You're beautiful." And the old lady says, "Don't I know it?" And I fucking burst into tears. I was like, where the fuck did that come from? Fuck me! Like, I was just like, like, because all of a sudden, that scene's so fucking beautiful. First off, I want to break that scene down because it's literally Barbie in the real world for the first time, not getting harassed. She's finally having a chance to sit down. She's looking around and she's seeing real pain that is being caused, real pain and love being caused by people to each other, and she's like seeing it. Like, because the Kens and the Barbies just work all well together and they have a good time. So it's the first time of her seeing this, and she's kind of like horrified, but also in wonder of what's going on. And it's kind of this great like human experience scene where they're like showing off this, like, even in a park you can see this gigantic range of human emotion and experience. And then for her to turn and see this older woman and see the beauty in the wrinkles. Like, the wrinkles tell a tale that she's been here for years and that she's lived through it.
And it's like the scars, physical and emotionally, and
right,
and just like the experience, like that's makes up a person. The imperfections make up a person. Yeah.
And then her to spit back the confidence is funny, but also it comes with a kind of knowledge that only age has, you know, like where you can see the beauty in everything, and especially in yourself and the years you've had and the life you've led. And I think that that's why I fucking broke down about that scene. I was like, fuck me. You know, like, I was like, where did that come from? I was having a funny time. Like, I was like, whoa. Like, and then they still got me later on, but I think that was the real scene that like broke me. And I was like, Jesus. I was like, that was something beautiful and amazing there, you know, like, and
yeah, it's the right amount of like, it's a very simple but poignant scene.
And I guess
like,
she fought for that.
Beyond.
They were like, cut this. And you can see that they could have cut it. At second watching of it, you can see that they could have just edited around it, just completely edited out that whole old lady scene. It's just not the same. That scene blew me backwards, you know? Like,
and it's one of those things where, like, I could see on paper people, like, not quite getting it, especially when, like, you gotta fucking just trim this down. Yeah. It's not like a case where, like, the first Wonder Woman film where, like, Warner Brothers wanted to cut the fucking trench scene. Just like, oh, you mean the scene in the fucking movie?
The scene, you
like,
dumbass.
The set piece? Are you insane? Like... On paper, I could see, like, do we really need this? But it's just one of those things where, like, no, that's a simple but poignant moment, which is...
And it's a crux of it, I feel like, you know? Like, it's what this movie is about in a lot of ways, because it is Barbie finding out what it means to be human in the real world, instead of just, you know, being like,
what's the soul and the spirit behind the plastic veil?
Yeah, fuck me, right?
Just like, why are we, just like the fact that we even have a type of conversation like this at all concerning the Barbie movie is a good sign.
Right? It's a damn good sign. Now, guys, I loved it. I will give it, for me, I feel like it's an 8 out of 10. I feel like there is some messiness here, but I feel like this is a great movie. Absolutely go see it. I want to own it. I want to buy it. I absolutely go see this movie. I saw it twice already. I might go see it again. It's that fun. It's that, there's so much to it that I feel like there's more to see, you know, like, and that's what I thought I would get out of Oppenheimer. So that's funny that Barbie gave me that, you know, like oh, I need to go back and watch that again, you know, like, because usually I walk out of a Nolan film and I'm like, fuck, I didn't take that all in, you know, like, I gotta go back, you know, like, and I do feel that way, but I feel like this is 3 hours, and after seeing Barbie, you're kind of like, I feel that 3 hours. Like, I've been, you know, like, you're like,
So you're saying that I probably had the better idea of doing Oppenheimer first?
Yes, I wanted to do that, Oppenheimer first. I would say that's my recommendation. To save yourself from the devastation of Oppenheimer, you need to go see Barbie afterward.
Like, go see Oppenheimer. Do what I did. I did Oppenheimer, left the theater briefly to get something to eat, just to, like, unwind a little bit, and then Barbie was just the cool down. Even though that has its fair amount of depth, it's still a lot lighter.
A lot lighter. Because I think of the realism that Nolan is going for in this movie. He's able to bring a lot to Oppenheimer and is able to tell his story in a real way, and still somehow even for a World War II history buff who knows all this shit. I know Manhattan Project shit. Like none of this should have been surprising or thrilling to me because I fucking know how it went down. I know I've not read the book that they're talking about, but I've skimmed it. I know what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
So tense. Oh my, was this movie fucking tense? Like, god damn, what an intense fucking movie this is. Like, that's what I'm saying, that you want to go to Barbie afterward because it's just kind of a release in comparison to like the
I think
I think Oppenheimer is, like you're like, Jesus.
I think it was Red Letter Media who said that like Oppenheimer was just a 3-hour long panic attack and they loved it.
Yes, I will say that is it. Is that it's so intense. I literally couldn't stand the Trinity scene. I know what happens at the Trinity test. No one dies. No one's hurt.
Yeah.
I still was like, fuck, during that whole scene. I was like, I was like, this is so intense. They were able to like make it so suspenseful just for the Trinity test. So it's not even like the suspense of dropping the bomb, which is what I thought would be the big suspenseful point of the movie. Nope. It's the first fucking real test.
Actually, and this is something that's sort of like, I won't say not like a hard divide for people.
Yeah.
But I actually love that the most we see of it is the Trinity test. We don't see the bombs drop in Japan. I actually love that they keep
I would say that's an absolute highlight of this movie.
I love that they just keep it from the perspective of the Americans who wouldn't be able to actually witness it. And it keeps it that way because there's that like element of dehumanization. Like it's happening over there. So we can be cheerful about it. Especially from the people who didn't work on the test, who wouldn't know just like exactly what we've unleashed.
Yeah. And Oppenheimer doesn't even ever see the results of Nagasaki or Hiroshima because until they're researching what the effects of their bomb is. So they he doesn't even get to see what the devastation is until they're showing. And I love that scene also because they don't show it. It's just him being like looking up, seeing the devastation on the screen and like keeping it on him, and he's just horrified and he can't look. And then he has the mental breakdown later where he's like seeing
he's doing like the rallying effects and just trying to be like the good old patriots, just like, aha, we really showed them. And then just like seeing visions of all the people he worked on it with like turn to ash or burn or throw up from radiation sickness.
Yeah, you're just like like the actual violence of the bomb that he created, but he never sees it until his visions of it. And I love that because it almost makes it even more horrifying, like that it's like this thing that like that you dropped and so uncaring.
This film is so good with like demonstrating like the callousness of humanity sometimes. Yeah. Like I loved the bit where they were just like casually discussing where to drop the bombs.
Yes.
And the general is just like, but let's not do Kyoto. I went to my honeymoon there with my wife. It's a lovely city. You're like,
right. You're like,
what the fuck?
I love that scene. I love that scene so much because, like there's a lot of debate in this movie if Nolan's like kind of an apologist for this, like they're like, is Nolan kind of being like, it's okay, they had to drop the bomb, like, and sort of is, but I feel like he shows his true feelings on it in that scene because it shows how uncaring, unfeeling, like just absolutely like not thinking of the humanity they're about to just fucking wipe out.
I think because it's such a good character piece for the way we portray Oppenheimer in this.
Yeah.
Like it works because you have like it's all about the scientific ambition. We got to make it. We got to make it. We got to beat them. We got to beat them to it. And just to get even to the point, it's just like, I now know what's been made and I've seen it. Yes. I can only imagine what it will do to people. And it's even to the point where just like, oh, the Germans are out of the war.
Yeah.
We got to find someone to drop this on. We spent so much money on it. You're like, and also the like brilliance. I had initially thought that the black and white versus color was like Strauss's point of view versus everyone else's point of view. Nolan has actually said that like it is that, but it's a little broader. It's objective versus subjective. And that's kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
So it's like people's perspective on the events versus the people actually involved.
Yes, exactly. Like when they're showing the black and white and then it's color for Einstein at the end, you know, it's like it is the real moment instead of just people witnessing them, Oppenheimer and Einstein having that moment. You know, like you're just like, oh shit. I love that. So I want to say in broad terms before I get into like the nitty gritty stuff. I love the absolute filmmaking of this movie. You know, like Nolan said, he did not use CGI in this movie. Incredible. The absolute dedication to the direction of this film is astounding.
I know they did the Trinity test itself like practically, and I know how they did it. I do wonder if it's mostly mostly miniatures. No, not the explosion itself, but I keep hearing no CGI, no CGI, no CGI. But what about like the visions of the world on fire?
Yeah, so that was a big like it is miniatures again. It's like the big miniature of the Earth on fire, and they're able to like get such a close shot of it that like it's just incredible, the miniature work on this. You know, like it's one of those things that you're like fucking hell.
It's such such a fucking flex. Like we had made the jokes when it was announced that like Nolan was doing a film about Oppenheimer. I'm just like, this fucking madman who's just like, unless it's impossible to do practically, I'm fucking doing it practically. Just like, oh, he's doing a biopic about Robert J. Oppenheimer. It's just like, is this motherfucker about to drop some news to get the footage for it?
I was saying, like, that's the real... they were basically implying every one of those articles that he was gonna fucking pop Japan. They're like, no CGI in this movie. No, it's all practical. You're like, what's that mean, motherfucker? What's that fucking mean?
It's like that fucking Hot Ones, like Jennifer Lawrence meme. What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Exactly. You're just like, what the fuck? But you could tell it's miniatures or explosions. On a closed set, or you know, like in the desert, and stuff like that.
And I love
like
that
they use a combination of many shots.
And just from a perspective, like I love that the Trinity test isn't played as just like, look how fucking cool this is.
Yes.
In fact, the explosion itself, while it's cool that it's done practically, isn't from like a spectacle standpoint all that impressive. It's really about the reactions of everyone.
Yes.
Like the shit, like just the white light.
Yes, hitting everybody and everyone wearing the sunscreen and everything. You're just
and then, of course, Oppenheimer says the quote.
Yes, right.
And the fact that it's also completely silent for a second.
Like, I know, absolutely. You could hear a pin drop in my theater when that fucking happened. That was like, you're just like, holy fuck, like. Jesus Christ. I just the absolute the confidence of Nolan in this movie is what I like here, and how much it doesn't always feel like a Nolan film. The only time it felt like a stereotypical Nolan film was they have the one scene where they're like bouncing off ideas with each other, and that felt very Inception-y, you know, like, and that was the only scene that I felt like I was like, okay, I'm watching a fucking Nolan film, you know? Like, you're like, okay.
I felt that, and when we were in, like, the like, tiny little conference room where Oppenheimer's not on trial, but he might as well be, when the fucking music, when fucking Ludwig Göransson's music was just blasting, because boy, oh boy, does Nolan love his music.
Right, loves it.
So that shit is just fucking blaring.
Every time I saw Barbie, you could fucking hear Oppenheimer through the wall. Like, you know, like, it is a loud fucking movie.
Yeah, I could hear it. I could hear it from below, because you've been to the Coolidge. Like, there's the main movie house 1, and then there's the movie house 2 upstairs. Barbie was upstairs. Nice. So I could hear when the Trinity test was going on downstairs. Like, I could fucking feel it. I could just like feel it in my feet.
You're like, holy fuck. Like it's a loud, I would say, it's like, I loved seeing Barbie in theaters, like the real like spectacle movie is this, like this is like, like the Barbie is worth seeing in theaters, absolutely, for the fun of it, for the laugh, seeing it with other people, it's absolutely it. But if you're talking about pure spectacle, pure feeling, pure rumble in the fucking seats and the testicles, you're talking about fucking Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
because
even if it's a movie where, if you want to like be reductive about it, it's a bunch of people talking in conference rooms.
But I will say, we are not big fans of, we watch a lot of biography films, but we always point out how it's hard to make real life, like the real things that happen, interesting, like, and I feel like a lot of biographies fall into that trap of they're like, well, this is what actually happened, even though it doesn't work for the plot, like, or anything like that. And you're like, you're telling a story, who cares about if it worked for the plot, like, make it work better,
Yeah,
like,
it's a tough balance
for a lot of them,
because you have to balance, like, this needs to work as a narrative film, and guess what? Real life doesn't work like a narrative film.
Yeah,
but also,
exactly.
So you need to dramatize it. There will always be dramatization to some extent, but there's also the point where you go too far.
Exactly. And I think this movie treads that line extremely well and is able to tell a great biography story, while also delivering something of like 12 Angry Men caliber like courtroom scenes here. Like
I do love 12 Angry Men.
I love 12.
That is on the AFI list.
We'll be fucking talking about it.
That is on the AFI list, so we'll be getting to it eventually.
But I think it's one of the greatest movies of all time, and I think they do a great job here of like capturing that greatness. Like that, like we can make a courtroom drama personal and also full of drama, while also staying realistic to being a court drama.
And it's also so well crafted that you get who these people are just through conversation, even without like proportionate like actions.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I think that, I think a real true criticism is that there is a lot of exposition in this movie. But I think that that's kind of people telling each other stories about each other.
And plus,
like,
to be fair, like a movie with this subject material, you're kind of going in knowing that it's going to be this.
Yes,
exactly. It is at its heart like a political drama.
Yeah,
like that's a historical drama.
That's what I would say the scene which made me go, this is a Nolan film, and how it and that is the reason why I'm giving this a 9 instead of pushing it all the way to a fucking 10. But like, I feel like that this movie deserves that, because this is fantastically crafted, extremely the cast is so fucking good. We haven't even started talking about the fucking cast here. Holy fuck.
This fucking movie must have been a bitch to edit.
Yeah, right? Holy
because
fuck.
It is another Nolan film, which is told from a non-linear standpoint. Which he loves. Like, there's always, even when the movie's not about time, there's always an undercurrent, an element of time, an element of time. Like, that's just something that, like, Nolan thinks about time a lot.
And I think that that's why this feels so great as a biography film, is that it's able to jump around in time and it feel natural and not jarring. And it's entertaining the entire time. Like, I say you feel 3 hours, but that's just because you saw Barbie before, like, like it's like otherwise I don't think you'd feel it as much. But it is, there's a lot going on here. There's a fucking lot going on, because it is, they say at the beginning, they're like, how could one, I would hate to have to defend your whole entire life in court, is basically the line they say at the beginning, and you're like, and like, sum your life up in court or something like that. That's the line, and you're like, and that's kind of what the movie is, and they kind of like drop that premise and then like kind of run with it.
And there's also that, like, according to like Cillian Murphy, like the principal photography for this was actually quick.
57 days.
That's it.
What the fuck? What the fuck? You shot this in 57 fucking days? That's insane. All on film? What the fuck, Nolan? What, like, what? Like, what? Like, crazy shit. But they also said he didn't have a video village, so no one's not a takes.
Yeah,
no one saw like what they did on film.
This is something you can see like through production for like most of his stuff. Like Nolan's not a video village person. Like he is very like old school mentality. Like I know what my cinematographer is doing. I know what the shot will look like. I need the confidence. It's just me.
I'll know when the shot is right. You know, like it's not you don't make the choice. I do, and you're kind of like. I do love that. I think and that's the reason why, you know, there was the behind the scenes story of Matt Damon was like in couples therapy with his wife, and he was like, I won't work for the next year and a half except if Nolan calls me up. And you're like, first off, fair, dude. You know, like,
yeah, and it also makes sense because he has worked with Nolan before. He was in Interstellar, so that was a possibility. It wouldn't be like, if Nolan calls, we've never worked together before, but you know, just in case. But like, they have history.
But it's kind of one of those things where you're like, one of the greatest artists of your time calls you up. Yeah, you're going to say yes, you know, like, and I do love it. I will say, this is one of Robert Downey Jr.'s best films. We were just talking about Matt Damon, but like, I will say about the
has
cast,
actually said that like he considers this the best movie he's ever been in.
Not a far stretch, to be fair. It's like, guys, I know you love Endgame. I know you're like, oh man, but Endgame's so good. Guys, come on.
Well, he's talked about how like he's played Tony Stark for so long that it's just one of those things. Like he said, he was worried if something like broke in him for that. Like maybe he didn't have the range anymore to play other stuff because he had like gotten so comfortable with just playing this one thing for so long.
He's so good in this. He's so
Which actors worry about all the time. This is why they hate typecasting.
Yes,
because you're like, I can demonstrate more range in the one
stay
thing.
Away from superhero films.
Yeah,
you know, like
I am more than just the one thing you know from. I can act. I can play other characters.
And it's one of those things that I love Robert Downey Jr. I think, you know, I love the Sherlock Holmes films. They're fun. They're stupid. I think they're, you know, like they're a good time. And I think that, you know, like,
and even Kiss Kiss Bang Bang like falls into that like
he's a fantastic
ad-libbing snarky character, so it wasn't that hard of a pivot to do Tony, especially since he more or less reinvented Tony Stark. Tony Stark was not like lovable snarky asshole in the comics. He became
just
that
asshole.
Afterwards.
Just asshole. Really.
Just an asshole. But we also need to think about like stuff earlier than like his big comeback with Marvel, like Chaplin.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And that's the thing is like, I think he's been brought into a lot of blockbusters, and I think the man has a lot more than that, and I think he shows it here. You know, like I think also the black and white scenes. Oh, we said it during Last Picture Show. The reason why the last pick, which was our last episode, go watch it. That the black and white brings out the performances in for the actors. So fucking true here. Oh my god! Every black and white scene, I was like, fuck. I was like, everyone's doing so fucking good. I was like, especially Robert Downey Jr. I was like, it's like I don't want to downplay anything he's ever done before, but this was fantastic. You know, it's like it's a great portrayal. He disappears in the role. He's just that. You know, like, and you're just like, I love it.
So many bit parts in this.
Yes.
From established actors that they only have so much time, but they do such a great job with it. Like,
so, first off, you got Alden Ehrenreich, who's the guy helping Robert Downey Jr. You're like, what the fuck are you doing
Alden
here?
Ehrenreich?
You know, like,
I think that's how you pronounce his last
Alden
name.
Ehrenreich. He's literally Han Solo. It's Han Solo.
He's not my Han Solo.
And then you have Jason Clarke there. You have
David Dastmalchian.
Kenneth Branagh as Niels Bohr. You're like, holy fuck! And he's so good as Niels Bohr. You're like, what the fuck? And you're like Kenneth Branagh. This might be one of your best roles ever, and you're just Niels Bohr. You know, like
it's weird that we're always so surprised that like Kenneth Branagh can act. Just like, yeah, Kenneth Branagh can fucking act. He's more than Gilderoy Lockhart.
I will give credit to Emily Blunt. I think she's absolutely fantastic in this fucking movie. No, not a bit part here. She is Kitty Oppenheimer. She is absolutely fantastic. Is able to like match Killian's fucking energy in such a way that is fantastic.
And this is a compliment, like the definition of a hard bitch.
In such a good way, you know, like
that's what I mean.
Like just such a fantastic
which
way.
is also which also layers onto like the criticisms towards like the way Nolan's like characterized women in the past, where it's like less openly making them bad and more just like being afraid to really utilize them and not screwing up. Just like Kitty in this feels like a person, like warts and all.
Warts and all, and I love that. You know, like because it's not you know, it's one of those things that this is very easy to be like, yo, this guy literally created one of the greatest war crimes of all time,
and would, you know, also like, and it would also be know, a like, very easy trap to fall into from a writing perspective, especially if it's a male writer, to be like, well, you know, this was the time, like what did the women actually do?
And it's one of those things that they're not apologizing for Oppenheimer, but they do. The one thing I feel like is very apologetic about the nuclear things that they say in this movie that I feel like is the very like it kind of makes you feel bad sort of thing is the very like we'll drop it twice and no one will ever drop another one again. It's the reason they always give for why we did it, you know, like for dropping the nuclear bomb is like being like, well, if we drop it twice, no one will ever drop a bomb again because we scared the shit out of them. Mm-hmm. And you're like, yeah, but it did take fucking two. You know, like, goddamn, like it's Jesus, fuck. Like,
I still think they get around that pretty well.
Yes,
like the fucking worker of his that eventually like betrays them of just like until they build the bigger bomb.
Yes, exactly. You're like kind of like fuck, and that's kind of the
everything's. I feel
just
like
escalates. The great part about that is that like it doesn't stop after they bomb. You know, like there's so much more to that. You know,
and here's the thing, like, and Nolan has tackled that theme before in like multiple movies, like the theme of escalation. Like The Dark Knight is all about escalation. Yeah. It's even explored like vaguely in Inception and Tenet. Just like, oh, once we finish the wars, now it's about like heists of the mind and dreams. And here now, if we can't fight this way, we'll fight doing time travel. We will always find a way to fucking fight each other.
Exactly. Keep going through the tiny cast, the tiny cast,
a bunch of unknowns. I don't know if they're ever going to make it into this industry. I hope they hope they get more attention.
You got Mattis Schwinghofer from Army of the Dead, the Swedish guy who like opens the shade.
Who was the best character in that movie?
He's in this. You have Josh Hartnett, which you're like, what the fuck? Where'd you come from? You have have we talked about? We haven't said anything about Florence Pugh yet. Like, and am I saying that wrong? Is Poe or is it Poe?
It's Pugh.
Pugh. Florence Pugh. I love her. We've been talking. You know, we've said how much we love her in so many movies.
You really need to watch Midsommar. I know you're afraid to because Ari Aster traumatized you a couple times, but it's so fucking good.
But she was great in Don't Worry, Darling last year, and in so many other movies and things. I can't get enough.
She is,
you know, like.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it just makes me laugh. She is determined to show people her boobs. I've seen
it's kind of like on the arms. You're kind of just like, this is happening.
So many times in movies, and even when you see her on like red carpet, like dresses and stuff like that, everything's like really transparent and see-through. Like Florence Pugh is constantly like, look at these titties. And I'm just like, hey, you do you.
Hey, whatever.
It's just a funny thing to note.
But she plays Jean Tatlock as this kind of first love of Oppenheimer, but they never really work. So it's this like constant in and out of love
for someone who obviously has like mental instability. Decades ago. So definitely no help there.
No help at all. And I think it's one of the most heartbreaking parts of this story because like Oppenheimer, you know, is putting in all this work and all this effort, and but also it's this kind of like he wants to help her, but she never wanted him sort of thing. But then she blames him for like abandoning him, even though she didn't really want him in the first place, sort of thing. It's this like actually complicated relationship, you know, like, and I really love that, you know, like, instead of just being, you know, just like a hot, sexy secretary that, you know, Oppenheimer screws. It's like this big, complicated relationship.
A person.
That they have. Yeah, a person. And you're like, holy shit. I do like their first scene where she discovers the I have become death.
Destroyer,
you know,
worlds. Yeah.
It's first off, it's very hot. Second off, it's kind of cool. You know, like it kind of all ties it together. And I think that even though it might be fake, it's a great scene. You know, like now. Keep going through the cast because she's absolutely fantastic in it. We have so many people, but I think that one that cracked me up, you know, I mean, other than Dane DeHaan is always great in DeHaan is great in everything. Loved him being here. You're like, okay, man, like you keep working, please.
Always good, always good at playing slimy.
Right, but like the two guys that I was like so surprised being there, and like. I know it might be a millennial thing, but I was like so surprised by Josh Peck being there and having such a small role, and then also Jack Quaid being there and also being a very small role. You're like, these are two huge names, and like it might not be anything to Nolan. Like Nolan might not give a fuck who these two guys are, but you're like. You're like, holy fuck, what? You know, like, and it is funny.
You're telling me Nolan hasn't watched Drake and Josh or The Boys?
Didn't grow up. Yeah, right? You're like, wait a fucking minute. And to be fair to Jack Quaid, he's a lot more than that now. You know, he's done all of Star Trek. You know, he's Peter Parker and Across the Spider-Verse. You know, like he's Clark Kent and Superman. The man is fucking living right now. The man, I think he's one of my favorite like up and coming actors at the up and coming. The man's an Oppenheimer and he's Superman, so up and coming my ass. But like you know, like one of these like young talented actors that I feel like we all have to keep an eye on because he's fantastic. And it's so great to have him in this. But it's like one of those things where he blends in immediately, but that's kind of the problem with Josh Peck being there. He doesn't. I know he does a great job in the role, but it's almost. It might just be my millennial mind, but I'm just like, Drake, Josh. You know, you're like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? But at least he gets to like hit the button and like for the Trinity test and like actually has that for a scene, and you're kind of like, okay, all right, like. But also Rami Malek being there for a very small but important role. Casey Affleck showing up. You're like, what the fuck is this movie? You know, everybody is just down to be in a Nolan film. Is obvious.
Yeah. Although, that is another case where like Casey Affleck was in Interstellar, so they've worked together already.
But you know, I loved how threatening he was in that role because I went into Oppenheimer knowing that I was going to be disappointed in humanity. I didn't also know it was going to be about McCarthyism, and I was going to be disappointed in humanity about that and my government. You know, like you're like fuck, like because. It's so funny. It's like a before McCarthyism movie where they're like, oh yeah, McCarthy, he's around, but fuck that dude. We're talking about something else. And you're like, so it wasn't just that motherfucker, you know, like literally it was pervasive through American culture.
Exactly.
You know, like to like squash any super left leaning anything, you know, like, and that's kind of the funny thing about this movie.
You found like the scapegoat to blame it on, but it wasn't just the one person. Like it permeated.
It's one of those things that like, yes, there was a real threat, sort of question mark, but not in any real way. And that's the thing going on is that like is that you kind of are like, wow, the lengths the U.S. government went to silence anything super left-leaning was intense back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. You know, like it's kind of like holy fuck. You know, like this is crazy, and it's something that like you don't fucking talk about that often. You know, like, it's just this kind of very, and it's funny to me that, like, I thought, you know, Barbie was going to be the more left-leaning movie, and then I get, like, a literal defense of communism from Oppenheimer, and you're like, get it. You know, like, you're like, what the fuck is happening here? You know, like, you're like, this is crazy. You know, like, but I think that's what makes this movie so real and great, is that they're really dealing with these guys' actual political beliefs. And you're like, okay.
Career best performance for Cillian Murphy?
Who knows? That man can't miss, motherfucker. That man don't miss. Sorry. None of all these movies here, masterful. Not a fucking movie on here I don't like. You know, like, you're like, God damn. The man is unstoppable.
And it was one of those things where, like, it was an inevitability for him to finally be the lead in a Nolan movie, because he's worked with them a few times.
Right.
Like, Nolan's like, that's my guy, and one day we're gonna get you in the front seat.
Nolan, in an interview I watched, was like, I saw him in 28 Days Later and loved his eyes and face. And I'm like, same, Nolan. Same.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's like, because, I mean, it's so true. This man has the bluest fucking eyes I've fucking ever seen. Other than Ryan Gosling, these guys have the bluest fucking eyes.
Cillian Murphy was actually my personal fan casting for The Sandman.
Oh, man.
Like, that was always mine. Like, if it was up to me, the cast, like, Cillian Murphy would be Morpheus.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. No question in my mind. You know, like, he's got range. And he's able to show it, and he's able to be mysterious. Absolutely. No question. I think he's absolutely great in this role. It's like, I've talked up the whole cast, but he really brings it together. I don't know who's the actor who plays Einstein, because he is also fantastic, where that could have been a really, like, cheesy role, and it's not at all. You know?
Yeah,
like,
where you play, like,
okay.
the caricature, cultural zeitgeist of Einstein, not actually Einstein the person.
Tom Conti is the guy who plays Einstein, and yeah, a very, very classic actor, though. You know, like, a lot of stuff he's done.
I feel like I've seen him in a lot of stuff, but, like, one of those actors were like a Harry Dean Stanton, where, like, you don't know the name, but you always know the guy.
Yes, exactly. You're like, I've seen you.
Or like a Peter Stormare, where, like, when they show up, you're like, hey.
Yeah, exactly. I really love that. I think that this was really cool. I think for like a scientific standpoint, this was really a cool movie, because you got to see these, like, it's this exciting time in science where all these, like, science greats are sort of working together, sort of bouncing ideas off of each other, and, like, and they all become household names in some way, you know, like, and it's all just feels very normal for them, you know, like, and very just like, oh yeah, we're just doing things, when you got Bohr's and fucking Einstein and Oppenheimer all in the same fucking place, and you're just like, and they're all talking to each other, and you're just like, the fuck, you know, like, and that's the kind of the fun of this movie, if you're just looking at it from that perspective, is like, it's cool to see this era of science where it's all these, like, gigantic geniuses all bouncing ideas off of each other, really, like, and questioning each other's methods, and then eventually maybe going to war.
I love
sort of thing.
I love the two marble and fishbowl thing.
Me too. It's a great visual device, like, of them of ramping up their research and them getting the uranium. You're just like, oh, I love it. Like, and then them using it later for transitions was really cool. You know, going to, like, drop something and then it's another bit marble in the bucket, you know, sort of thing. And you're just like, no,
it's one of those things where, like, it feels, the entire film just feels so effortless. And you know this motherfucker would have been difficult.
Yeah, it's a feat of filmmaking, is what I would say. It's an absolutely 3 hours of filmmaking brilliance, and he somehow shot it in 57 days, which is unheard of in Hollywood. And then, you know, and did some absolutely amazing stuff in the edit. I would say if they do not get you know, nominations for editing on this for the Oscars, they're missing out.
This
Because
better
is-
be.
It really blew
I
me
feel
away
like for
with
the
me.
Oscars in general, this better be the fucking one for Nolan, because for some reason we're always really cagey about giving Nolan his due whenever he releases
But you
a movie.
know the Oscars love a biography, you know,
Yeah.
like so this might be
This
it
finally
for him.
ticks the box because it's a fucking historical drama.
Yeah, I would say okay, that, like you know, like if we're coming to it, this might be one of the best movies of the year. It's absolutely one of Nolan's best. And
To be fair, that's why it doesn't feel as bad, because this will
Yes.
probably be the one to sweep, because it's like,
Ex-
oh, the Oscars love them to historical dramas. But to be fair,
Exactly.
it is one of his best works.
Yes, it's like that's my thing here. Is the Oscars? I feel like should recognize because this is pretty amazing. You know, like and I would. It stands up there with you know, like with the best of the year. You know, like there's a lot of good things coming out this year. It's a great year for movies. Fucking great year for movies. Probably one of those years which will go down in memory as one of the greatest years in film. But you know, like it's you know, it's about
And whatever keeps the theaters alive.
right. That's what it's about.
Like, I've gotten to the point where, like, I only want to go to particular theaters. Like, I've lost my patience for AMC. They can take their fucking Nicole Kidman ads and get out of my face. I want to go to specialty theaters. I like going to the Coolidge. I like going to the Somerville Theater. And even though it's a chain, it's, you know, a little more focused. They care a little more. They're more strict about rowdiness. Like, I can't fucking wait for the Alamo Drafthouse to finish opening up over here.
I know. Please open
Like,
up.
you give
You're
me those three
please.
options so I can never have to go to an AMC again.
You're like, please, just stop. I don't want to go to AMC. I was trying to see for like for the most popular movies this year. I was trying to see, but I was oh yeah, by genre, TV. See, IMDb makes it too fucking hard sometimes. But if I had to go down my list, this might be one of the best of the year. This might be the one that, you know, might be. It might not be some people's favorite of the year, but for me, I feel like it's one of the best.
Yeah.
And
there's still plenty of the year left.
still plenty of year left. And it's one of those things that a year with even just Across the Spider-Verse, I'd be fucking happy. But then you get something like Barbie and Oppenheimer together, and Oppenheimer be so fantastic, and Barbie too, that you're just like, fuck. Great year. Fucking great year for film. Like, you know, like you're just like, God damn, great work, everybody. Like, I know the strike has started this year, but you guys
And
fucking deserve it.
And it's also nice that Nolan is able to prove that, like, he doesn't really need WB behind them to excel.
Exactly. You're just like, yeah, he can do it.
Because we only have, like...
Is basically it.
Because the more, like, Hollywood in general tries to commodify, like, art into content, we start to move away from singular, like, visionaries as far as, like, creative storytelling is concerned. Because you have, like, Nolan, who's one of those guys just like, I only want to shoot on film, I want to have my control, blah, 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 blah. Or we're sort of, like, in this transitional period. Like, Spielberg's still kicking, Scorsese's still kicking, but they're the old guard. Tarantino's out after one more movie. Which I'm inclined to believe only because he's been saying this since he first started. Like,
Forever.
10 and I'm out, 10 and I'm out.
10 and I'm done. Yeah. I was saying, you know, this is a great year, and I only brought up Across the Spider-Verse, but I'm forgetting the other two nines for this year for me. It was John Wick, Chapter 4, and fucking Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You know, like that is... I would be happy with just Across the Spider-Verse and Guardians of the Galaxy being this year, and those other two, and Oppenheimer and
I just got the email to yesterday that my Guardians Volume 3 Steelbook is on the way.
Hell yeah. I think this is a great year for movies. I think Barbenheimer is this great exclamation point on summer movies for this year. And there's a lot more coming this year to like finish off a fucking great year. I'm excited for Mutant Mayhem. I don't give a fuck about Ninja Turtles, and I'm excited about Mutant Mayhem coming up. You know, like I feel like that looks like a great time.
Yeah, it just looks like sheer creativity. And I'm not a Ninja Turtles guy either, but it's like, yeah, sweet.
Yeah, sweet.
We're in that post Spider-Verse world where you're seeing the influence on it.
We also have Meg 2 coming up. No, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. That's a joke, but I am excited.
Apologies to listeners if you're hearing that rattling. It has just started raining over here. It's starting to get loud.
Started raining. But you know, like there's a lot of great movies coming out for the rest of this year. I think of Slaughterhouse. Oh my God, the sloth horror movie. Yes. But there's a lot of great movies. I'm excited for Blue Beetle coming up, and you know, we'll see what happens. No, Godzilla. That's what I was thinking of. Any year with fucking Godzilla is a good year for cinema, and we are getting one in December. So I feel like that's the true exclamation point on this year being a great year in cinema. You get so many great movies, and you have that too. You're like, oh, fuck, yeah, man. So pretty excited about that for Godzilla. But, Deshaun, final thoughts on Oppenheimer sort of thing?
Like I said, one of Nolan's best, like, sort of, it's almost a culmination of, like, everything he sort of builds towards. Even, I would argue, even maybe more so than Tenet. Because, like, Tenet was, like, the inevitable one, like, he's gonna do fucking time travel eventually, and then he did.
A time travel heist movie, yeah, right? You're like,
but this one, like,
he did it.
This one deals with, like, the scope of humanity, ideas of time, and your impact on it, and what you leave the world. Like, it kind of combines
what's your legacy,
everything.
Like...
And it's one of those things where, and I feel like this almost every time he does the movie, it's just like, what the fuck do you follow this up with?
Yeah. I agree. I'm like, Nolan, what do you do after this? You know, like, this is like, I want to see where he goes, because obviously Nolan's one of my favorite filmmakers. I will watch anything he puts out, but I don't know where he goes from this. So I'm excited to see. Like, what's
for
next.
me, for my mind, he is like never missed. To me, I think his weakest film is probably Insomnia, and even then, Insomnia is a good movie.
Fuck out of here! Insomnia is a fucking classic. Like,
it's all, but it's like weaker, relatively speaking.
Oh, okay. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, if I had to pick one, it's still a good movie. But it's also one of those ones where, like, he didn't write that. It was a remake of a foreign film, so, like, it doesn't feel as much like him as some of his other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, Following is a classic, so is Memento. Yeah, I mean, Insomnia, I would say maybe that's the weakest, because Prestige is absolutely fantastic. All the Batman.
I feel like Prestige doesn't get enough.
Amazing.
I feel like the Prestige doesn't get nearly enough respect.
Right? It doesn't. It's one of those things where you're like, what a fantastic movie. You know, and they just kind of.
That's probably like it and The Dark Knight Rises are probably the most divisive.
Yeah, weird, right? You're like that's so strange. Like, especially because like everyone just loves Dunkirk, you know, like they're kind of just like, yep, okay, yep, okay. And I feel like a lot of people just don't know Following exists. You know, his first film. You know, like where it's I watched it in film school. A young writer who follows strangers for material meets a thief who takes him under his wing. Is the plot synopsis. It's a fun one. It shows all of Nolan's strengths start in this like great budding way.
And I feel like Tenet also rubbed people the wrong way, but I think that's mostly a case of like, I didn't understand it, so I'm mad at it. It's bad.
And I would say hey, if you didn't understand Oppenheimer, like guys, like, and I say this for every Christopher Nolan movie, you're dumb if you didn't understand the movie. But especially for Oppenheimer here, I feel like he's being so natural with all the time skips and all the movement. It feels like you're reading a novel and how it like moves and progresses through time.
It's just one of those things where like
if you don't understand it, I don't know what to say. Like,
I hate to sound like the old man, but I'm sorry, Christopher Nolan's movies are just the movies that like require your full attention.
Yes. Yeah, that's why I'm saying for both of these movies to go see it in theaters, because you will not put the full attention in watching it at home. It's just the way it is. If you can go see both of these movies so you can catch everything. I definitely want to see Oppenheimer again. I'm not rushing out because of how devastated I was emotionally, but it really is. It's one of those things that like it's not trying to be sad, but somehow you're just so beat up at the
also
end, you know?
Kudos,
like,
since we didn't bring up the cinematography too much, like Hoyte van Hoytema, Ever since, like, I've been following this dude since Let the Right One In, and he's only continued to just get better and better at his craft.
Talk about a man who doesn't miss. Fucking can't miss. Fucking great. The cinematography here is... It's fantastic. One of my favorite bits is the beginning when Oppenheimer's kind of like seeing things. His schizophrenia is getting really bad, which I love that they never bring up that he has schizophrenia, but they address it with him having visions. Like they just don't say it. They don't. Nobody says he has schizophrenia. He doesn't say it, but it's something that's very said in his book. He brings it up and he talks about it. But like it's one of those things that like, and it's also the debate there. I know Oppenheimer's son came out and was like, "Hey, the Apple scene never really happened." Even in the book, Oppenheimer even says he doesn't know if it actually happened or if it was one of his delusions.
And to be fair,
isn't that to show how stressed he was, even if it happened or not?
And to be fair, that article is very misleading. Like if you actually read it, like his like I think it's like his actual like his grandson is actually way more positive about the movie than that like headline says.
Oh, okay.
Like he goes into details, just like, oh, it was actually a very good movie, like very well crafted from a storytelling perspective. Obviously, you need to dramatize stuff. He was actually pretty positive about it. Yeah. But they took that little bit about the apple and made it seem like, oh, his grandson is furious.
And you're like, nah, it's really nothing. I did love that scene. I've always known that story about Oppenheimer, so I did love that scene because it was the one thing I really expected, like to happen in this movie. And for them to just do it right away to kind of show who Oppenheimer is, I thought was a great device to start the movie with, like to show off who young Oppenheimer is as a person, and then to see him kind of grow out of that is also really cool, like
people change.
People change.
You get old and full of regret.
Oppenheimer, worth seeing, worth getting, worth absolutely, in our rating scale of pre-order it, own it, wait for a sale, or no. Which is our Warp Shelf rating system. This is
as close as a rating system as we have.
Yeah, and this is a pre-order. This is a fucking give me that movie as soon as possible.
It is one of those movies that like makes me excited that I have a PS5 and can play 4K Blu-rays now.
Yeah, right? You're like, hell yeah. Also, did you hear that Ratchet & Clank PC port can't even fucking... You know how they were like, no loading times for Ratchet & Clank, and it literally so much loading times on the PC version. You're kind of like, damn, PS5, what the fuck you packing in there?
It's the fucking, the PS5's got that solid state drive, baby.
It's crazy. It's crazy that the PS5 can outpace a lot of computers on this. You're like, holy fuck. It's kind of fucking...
Eat that fucking PC awesome. Master Race.
Makes you want to be like, might be a PS5 time, but no, I do not need new systems.
You want it. Did you see that fucking Spider-Man 2 one that they released, where it's like it's like half black because the symbiote's taking it over? That looks so sick.
So sick. I mean, speaking of that, did you see the Barbie one where it's like literally like sort of a dream house, and they like it's got places to put your games in and stuff like that. It looked great. I was like, oh hell yeah. Like, and then there was I think there was an Oppenheimer one, but it was just like black and like like, you're like, yeah, okay.
They should just give you a pile of ashes.
Yeah. They're like, here you go, have fun, motherfucker.
Anyway.
Anyways, guys, thank you.
Both good movies.
To this.
Go see it. Make the time.
Do it. It's worth it. This will, undoubtedly, I think these will smash records all year long.
Barbie's already fucking smashing records. This shit is...
Smashing records. I think it will keep going. And I think this is Nolan's third highest grossing movie, just behind Inception.
Which is refreshing given the concept material, because it's definitely not as accessible a film as Barbie is for like a broader appeal, because this is why studios get so fucking afraid of anything like R-rated or anything that's not immediately broad. It's just like, it's not going to hit as many screens as possible. It's not going to sell as many tickets as possible. And Oppenheimer's such a focused subject matter that I'm glad it's doing so well.
Yeah, me too. And that they will make their money back on it. So Nolan, will continue to do whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah.
Which is all I want. Yes, exactly. And in a year where I'm saying some of the greatest movies of the year are superhero films, I like that these two are not, and they are still fantastic.
And that's coming from comic book fans.
Yeah, it's coming from comic book fans.
Like
who love this.
We are
shit,
happy to be so fucking spoiled with the amount of like superhero content, but still got to mix it
up. But guys, thank you for listening to this double-sized, almost Barbie-length, movie-length episode covering Barbie and Oppenheimer in our Barbenheimer episode here. Go back, check out our other episodes, and, hit all the Dooley dads down below to make the algorithm move. You know the deal. Don't have to say anything else. But you can also find us, if you're not watching us on YouTube and watching our beautiful faces, you could be listening in on any freaking podcast platform you can think of. I mean it. If we're not on a podcast platform, tell me. It's my literal promise to you. I will get it on there. Because we're everywhere. And if your favorite one is and we're not on there, let me know, because we will get it up on there. And please, guys, we want to talk about these movies. Please comment on any of those places so we can discuss. Did you hate Barbie? Did you not have a good time? Did you hate Oppenheimer? I want to hear it, because I feel like there is criticism to be had in both of these. And obviously, we talked for 2 hours on these, but there's obvious criticisms for both of these, and I'd love to hear from all of you about it. Guys, if you want to see our own social medias, you can check out, I'm Yep Frank or Yep Gundam on not on Twitter anymore. I'm not even, I uninstalled X this morning. We will keep it up for a little bit, but I am not posting on there anymore. So check me out on Instagram and Threads.
Either way, it sucks. Instagram's owned by FB, so you're like,
yeah, you're like, fuck, it all sucks. Like, but X is now sort of a hellscape, so I'm kind of like,
And I'm pretty much on every platform under the same username, Mod Karaika. Also, if you're a local to the Boston area, I will be at Fan Expo Boston next weekend. So
go
on the off chance you recognize him, you could say hi.
So go say hi. Go see us at Fan Expo. He will be wandering around, looking amazed at everything going on. Guys, thank you for supporting the show. We really appreciate it. I love talking with Deshaun, but I love knowing that you guys are listening and liking it and digging it. And I hope you do. And if you have suggestions for episodes or things you want us to cover, again, leave it down below or DM us, tell us what you want. Next up, though, is either if me and Deshaun finish Tears of the Kingdom, which might not
I'm almost
happen.
done.
I'm almost done. I'm on Thunder Isles. I'm flying around in the sky. I'm almost there. Or we have Pulp Fiction coming up on the AFI Top 100 list. There's also more movies coming, but you got to make choices. You gotta choose things.
The possibilities are endless.
And possibilities are endless. I mean, we still may talk about The Flash. Who knows? It might piss me off so much that we have to talk about it. But
I mean, it would be a change of pace. We pride ourselves on being mostly a positive podcast, but it might actually be refreshing.
I think you can get that from this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I was pretty fucking angry with Black Adam and Shazam too. So if we do The Flash, it will be talking a little bit about those two at the same time. No, and Deshaun, it was better than Black Adam, but that's like not saying anything, that's not saying anything at all, really.
It was already,
it
was a red flag for me immediately when they were bringing in original villains.
Yes, exactly.
The fuck, you teased,
and with such big name actors, that's what kills me. You
teased Mr.
all these
Mind
big name actors
and the Monster
to make
Society
up
at the end of the first one. You give me fucking original villains in the sequel,
right? You're like, fuck off. Yeah, exactly. After seeing Black Adam and Shazam as a double feature, I was like, yeah, restart the DC universe. I was like, yeah, fuck this, I'm in.
Oh, you're gonna feel that. You're gonna feel that so hard when you watch The Flash.
Oh God.
But to be fair, it is the reset, so you're like, you can't ask for the reset; it's already there.
It's already there. It's already happening. And then we have Blue Beetle coming up, and that will absolutely be an episode because we love the Blue Beetle here.
Yes,
and I feel like
I do want to
it is
support Blue
something.
Beetle.
It's
think it's
something
gonna
to talk about.
I think the movie looks fine. I think it'll be fine.
Yes. And does One Piece come soon? Should
Ugh.
we do me just watching the Netflix version with you having book knowledge and some show knowledge? Because you've seen the beginning of the show, obviously, too. So
Only like
No?
clips here and there.
Oh, okay. I
read One
I thought
Piece.
you had.
I read One Piece. I don't watch it. That shit's too long.
I know. I was like, that would be kind of fun though. We do like a One Piece where I've never seen anything else except for this, and and you have deep knowledge of it too. I would be like, this might be
Yeah,
fun.
but then I would have to sit down and watch it. I don't wanna.
I don't know if you've heard the creator of One Piece made them reshoot a lot of it.
Yeah, it still
yeah.
looks bad.
I know it doesn't look great. I'm kind of like, oh god, they're doing Cowboy Bebop again. They're doing Jerry Seinfeld Cowboy Bebop again. Don't do this. Like, but we'll see. We'll fucking see. But guys, thank you so much for listening into this episode. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
And we'll see you next time.
And we'll see you next time. Adios.